Thanks for everyone for tuning in to ENTRIBE's inaugural webinar. This will be the first of a series we plan to release every month. Today, I'll be your host. My name's Tim Roach. For our agenda today, we'll include some brief introductions of our speakers, review some of the challenges marketers are facing developing their creator community, and how brands like GoPro and agencies like Razorfish are executing their community strategy. So this discussion will be about 30 minutes long with a 15-minute Q&A afterwards, and a recorded version will be sent to everyone next week. So feel free to share with your friends. We'd like to kick off this quote from Lee Jin, a partner from Andreessen Horowitz. She says, "Own your audience, don't rent it. You never truly own your audience unless it can move with you." And we love this quote here at ENTRIBE because we feel it's more relevant than ever. There's a lot of brands out there who are renting influencers, but we see brands who are able to connect with their authentic audience are winning in a big way. So this will definitely be foundation to the discussion we have today. So to kick off introductions, today our webinar features ENTRIBE's founder and CEO, Adam Dornbush, and Matt Heidel, Razorfish's Vice President of Content Marketing and Social Media. This is our first webinar, and I'm super excited to have two OGs of the UGC world. Both Adam and Matt have been working with some of the most recognizable brands to inspire and generate stunning content. So first, I want to introduce Adam. Prior to founding ENTRIBE, Adam built the rewards and content program at GoPro, where he literally took them from 5 pieces of licensed content to over 250,000 pieces in the first year, while managing 40,000 creators. And prior to that, he was working with Current TV to acquire citizen journalism all around the world, over 100 countries. So Adam will definitely be our expert on how to leverage UGC at scale. And on the creative side, we have Matt, our guest speaker from Razorfish. Matt's been working in community content and viral video production since the early days of social media. He'll share some really fun stories about how he found creators on Craigslist for Burger King campaigns he put together, and how he worked with early Instagram adopters to develop TV commercials for Mercedes-Benz. So very excited to have these two on here. And whether you know it or not, almost everyone on this webinar has engaged with UGC in one way or another, whether it's on your social feeds, on the homepages of your favorite brands, or if you've watched the Super Bowl. Since 2006, Doritos has actually been leveraging creators from their community to develop advertisements for their Super Bowl spots, rewarding upwards of $1 million for these creators. So it's a really big deal. So my first question for Adam is, why is UGC so important or even necessary for brands today?
Thanks, Tim. And thanks so much for hosting. And Matt, I'm super excited to have you here as a speaker. So before I answer that question, I just wanted to thank Matt for coming along on this journey with me. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what he has to say. Matt and I actually go way back. We've been working together for 12 plus years. When I was licensing content from him at heavy.com, that was a blast back in New York. But, as far as UGC, it's more important than ever now because, we like to say 10 years ago, brands lost their voice when social media really started picking up. But now everyone's got a camera phone in their pocket. Everyone's taking pictures and videos. Everyone's sharing that through the web. And more than ever, brands are losing control of their creative because more pictures and videos are shared about the brand by creators out there rather than agencies and production companies. And so more than ever, it's important for brands to embrace that, recognize that their community is actually creating more content than they are and sharing that brand message. So how do you rein that in? How do you control that brand message? How do you reward the creators that are doing a good job and sort of suppress the ones that are doing a bad job? Because you really want to control that. But Matt, how are you seeing UGC take a bigger role with your agency clients?
Well, first of all, the good and scary thing is that what you can actually probably see is about 10% of the sharing, right? Most of the sharing is in dark social. So it's people on WhatsApp and chatting on their phones and via closed gardens like Facebook. So it's probably, 100 times larger than the numbers we will even quote. But look, people crave authenticity. There's a reason why TikTok is big right now. Look, there's a mini revolt going against the very polished Instagrammers of the world. The Kardashians taking island vacations during COVID, not super popular, but look, that's flashy and gossip worthy, but we've even seen time on site increases when you have user generated content. People see more diversity in voice. They see people like themselves when there are more angles than one on a page, especially in e-commerce, right? So I would say that craving for authenticity by consumers. And then on our side, on the agency side, we really couldn't shoot 4 months ago very well. Something happened in this country. I think we all know. But look, mobilizing, getting organized now in a safe, legal, and just win-win way is going to do nothing but kind of recession-proof your program, because we're probably rolling into another set of lockdowns at some point. And those who started in the spring are going to be pretty happy, and those who hop to it today will be one step ahead.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And so before we go too deep on sort of like why we're here and what we can do with user generated content, I thought it would be good to kind of take a step back and like just review with everyone on the phone, like, what is user generated content? And Matt, you see it across all sorts of different formats, locations, places. Take us through it real quick.
Yeah, and look, Adam is the OG guy. Whenever I'm in a client presentation, they're like, well, what is Red Bull doing? Or what is GoPro doing? I'm like, oh my God, like that's the bell of the ball. That's like the nirvana state when your product is a camera. But here's some examples here. It can be photos, it can be testimonials, it can be little line drawings. And there are some places you can use it that you might not think of, right? So for example, it might be a little hard to see, but on the left there, Foot Locker does a really good job, for example, of just taking some of the existing content out there, giving some props to the shoe collectors and sneakerheads, and posting it on their website. Super simple, but again, you can see many multiple angles from these users. CRM and email, just knowing from experience, sometimes the CRM and email program gets kind of the last of the lot. They get kind of the scraps. Getting 20, 30, 40 photos a week or images to insert into that kind of thing, and insert some testimonials, and insert some humanity into email is nothing but a win.
A lot of our clients are actually seeing a ton of success there. Getting that content into emails just is more relevant. People connect with it, right?
Yep. Exactly. Like I mentioned before, Doritos has a Super Bowl commercial every year. I think Chevy had a really cool campaign this last year where they took real people and had them give testimonials and why they're Chevy. And even out of home, look, we've all been to trade fairs, and we've all seen, all of the little snippets and bits of information from all the different talks and things like that up on the boards. But using UGC in out of home could also be a very inexpensive way to kind of scale that up and kind of mix it up a little bit, especially, again, in these uncertain times. You don't know how long your billboard might be up. If it's a digital billboard and it's up for a couple extra weeks, change it up a little bit.
Yep, and people are out and about. And I noticed that we actually have a bunch of university clients or potential clients on the call right now. And, I'm seeing more and more user-generated content from students and faculty and things like that appear on out of home than, almost any other content vertical.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my Wisconsin homies from UWGB.
Nice, but I see a ton of companies running into these pitfalls. There's a lot of issues with user-generated content. A lot of people run one-off campaigns, which is super inefficient, disorganized. Most people I know are using spreadsheets until they start working with us. Legal rights and clearances can be super difficult to manage at scale. And how do you manage that with the content coming from users that aren't familiar with legal rights and clearances? Getting that content in front of them and being able to explain legal rights and clearances can be super taxing on the team. Minimal activation. To get really good user-generated content, you got to activate those users. Tell them what you want, and you might have to do it more than once. And then giving people direction. Like, most people don't get direction. They just throw up a campaign. They say, hey, send us your content, and they're hoping to get the best content. That's not going to work. There's a lot of best practices built in here that we've learned over time. And Matt, what are some of the best practices that you've seen that really drive the best user-generated content?
Look, I would say, like you said, number one, going out and finding someone hashtagging your brand every now and then by chance, that's a nice surprise, but just get organized about it. And I've had countless talks with our production people and our legal people, and until you have those kind of little T's and C's and contracts ironed out, every time you open up a new relationship, you're going to have to engage your legal folks, and it gets really expensive suddenly. So I would say like that, that paper trail, that getting organized is probably the most important part, because once that foundation is set, then away you go.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. And for our first poll question we have for the audience, how much content do you find usable or on brand or social media today? We'll give you all a couple of minutes to reply.
Yeah, so, this is one of the questions I get all the time from our potential clients. Like, how much content are we likely to see? How much is actually usable? Most of the stuff I'm seeing on social media isn't on brand. Like, why do I want to engage with user-generated content when I can go hire a production company and make sure I get exactly what I'm looking for? And Matt, what would you say to them?
I would say it's kind of like normal creative at an agency or at a marketing services department. The creative will be as good as your brief, right? Mm-hmm. If you can learn how to speak to consumers, learn what their habits are, learn what kind of equipment they have. Heck, we even did something for Revlon a couple of years ago where we actually flew influencers, kind of micro influencers, into New York to show them how to use lighting, to just make them do better for us. So yeah, I would say, good in, good out, and you will build that up. It'll kind of snowball eventually, but don't expect the world immediately. If you don't have a camera, I'll keep picking on GoPro. If you don't have a camera as a client.
You would be surprised though, like it was amazing. Even at GoPro, less than 1% of content was usable. So I licensed 250,000 pieces of content in our first year there, but less than 1% of it we wanted to use. Now we had a very high brand standard. We wanted to make sure the content looked amazing. There was no smudges on the lenses. The coloring was good, no violence, anything like that. We were very careful about our brand, but we threw away most of that content. We still engaged with the clients, and that created an incredible loyalty program, which we'll get into in a minute. But even at GoPro, we found most of the content was unusable, but the content that you did see was what we circulated, what we brought up to the surface, what we helped to elevate in the conversation. All right, we got a lot of votes in. Looks like actually a lot of people are saying, 10%'s the winner here, but we got a handful of less than 1% and a handful even more than 10%, which is cool. That's great to hear, because I think what I'm hearing there is that people are starting to embrace user-generated content in a much bigger way and recognize that even if it's not brand standard right away, maybe it is in COVID days. Maybe we're more accepting it.
We all also have better phones now.
That's true.
Or cameras that happen to be phones, yes.
Yep, absolutely. So, what are some of the issues that we hear? Like we're hearing content's not very good looking, there's limited creator communication. These are some of the challenges that you do with UGC. It's hard to get really good content out of your creator community. What we really lean into at ENTRIBE is creating a one-to-one relationship with your customer. And this is what we did at GoPro, which is really create that feedback loop, that communication with them away from social media, because communicating on social media is hard. Rewarding is hard. Most brands are not set up for it. Rights clearances are a minefield. If you can create a process, if you can create a system in place, you can actually make it really easy to create UGC campaigns and things like that. I mean, are you seeing more brands embrace UGC campaigns, Matt? Like, how are they managing that process?
Well, to be honest, I am kind of getting people up to speed on managing the process now that it's become more of a thing. But look, it's like anything. You will try a little bit. You'll dip your toe in the water. You'll reach out to some people who hashtag you and you're super fans. But again, it's time to get organized. I'll tell you what, I dare you to post a YouTube video with a Rolling Stone song in the background on and see how long it takes to get taken down. There are a lot of digital feelers and radars out there now. And, yeah, it's got to be very careful, because, you may have someone come back 3 years from now looking for money if you don't have a real agreement and a real system in place to keep track of things.
Yep, 100% agree. And, having a system in place is so important. At GoPro, we did that, but it still took a lot of people because our tech stack was broken, right? We had one piece of tech that helped acquire the content, another group that managed the teams, another group that rewarded. Anyways, there was about 6 different teams that had to manage that process, about 50 people. but we did create one of the most amazing campaigns. I want to show you guys a quick video. It's about 2 minutes. Stay with me. Cool. Well, so that was GoPro Awards. That was a program I put together. I actually announced it about 7 years ago at USC Film School. It was a partnership with UCLA, USC Film, but really it spanned the world. We acquired content from every single country in the world, 250,000 pieces just in the first year. And that campaign's still going today. So every year they're giving away at least $1 million to users all over the world. That's amazing. And yeah, it's the gold standard and it's fantastic, but even small brands like Bare Organics that we work with today, others like the Friday Top 5 that we do for another one of our companies, these are smaller brands that also have very small creator communities, but for less than 1 hour a day, social media marketing manager can manage these campaigns now, because 7 years ago at GoPro, we didn't have the tech stack to manage this process. Today we do. And so it makes it so much easier, and we're killing it. It's a lot of fun. Matt, are you seeing big and small brands really starting to embrace UGC, and like how can such a small brands really get into it too?
Yeah, look, I'll go back to that fundamentals. Once the system is in place, you can scale it as large as you want. And look, you don't need to give $5 million away. We work with certain brands or OxyClean, I'll mention by name, where people write to us and they'll hashtag us and we'll send them a little gift box with a couple variants of OxyClean, and they get really excited. I use this anecdote all the time. Like, I'm a paid social media professional person, been doing it forever. When I blast go Wi-Fi on the flight for the Wi-Fi going down, and they reply on Twitter, I'm like it's kind of magic, right? So there's that brand magic, there's that kind of fan club appeal, and then for the rest of it, you don't need to again give away $10,000, $20,000. Right size it. Use your product as collateral. Use experiences. We send people to auto shows on our behalf for some of our automotive brands as well. So yeah, be creative. Even just talk to them. Figure out what would motivate them to do something for the brand that's very valuable to you.
Activation is a huge thing for us. We lean into activation, and not just one message out saying, hey, go take a picture of a Slurpee cup for us, but hey, go take a picture of a Slurpee cup. Next time, have one of your friends in it. Next time, do it in front of our store. Next time, do it in our restaurant. Or, giving a little bit of direction, giving clear activation and doing it more than once is important. Yeah, let's dive into the next poll.
Leads right into our second poll. Are you able to reactivate your best content creators? Yes or no? Again, we'll give everyone a couple minutes to reply.
Cool. So reactivating is huge. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Oh no, I was jumping the gun there. I was going to say, look, like even reactivating is easier from the paperwork standpoint and from the briefing standpoint, but we're working with a lot of influencers on a longer level, right? For months or years at a time if we can. So we'll jump back into OxyClean. We found people that we signed up for multi-post deals, and these are influencers and creators. This isn't UGC so much, but we found that it's a lot more believable to see somebody pop the product in and out of their life over the course of many months, especially when they have multiple variants for grass stains and wine stains and all the millions of hacks you can have in laundry. And it just feels more natural. And it can be then part of a program, part of a campaign. And then if the campaign happens to pivot, then that person can also pivot with you, right? It's not a one and done, step and repeat, junket style push. So again, I'll be the voice of the consumer and the defender of authenticity. And I think that's one way to do it, through influencers, as well as getting your tribe of creators to do the same thing.
And that's exactly how we got the best content at GoPro. So we reactivated all the time. But it's important to discover good creators. You can search social media. There's lots of tools out there to do that. We have some, other people have some. Finding the good creators, bringing them into your tribe, but then reactivating them over and over again. Because marketing campaigns are often very short-lived, right? A couple months, maybe, sometimes up to a year. But at GoPro, we kept those creators in our CRM. We kept managing them. And then we would reactivate the best ones when we knew we needed a new campaign. So going from one campaign to the next, we kept doing that. And we're doing that for actually a couple of our bigger clients right now, where they've got thousands of creators in the system, and we're isolating which ones we know are the best ones, and we'll reactivate them when we have a campaign that matches what they're doing. So whether it's a mom taking their kids out for the weekend, or it's a kid on a skateboard, or it's playing at the dog park, or it's somebody jumping off a ski cliff, we know who those people are. We know how to reactivate them for the new campaigns. And so we give them the right messaging, the right direction. And that's how that content really gets elevated to that 10, 25, 50% level of usable brand content. Cool. And I'm seeing we got a lot of votes in. We've got, about 2/3 are saying yes, they can reactivate. And that's good to hear, because that's super important these days. And just real quickly recapping on GoPro Awards, we rewarded a lot. We rewarded millions of dollars. We were able to capture a ton of content and get a lot of usable content, but also we drove a ton of e-commerce. But you don't have to do that. Some of the most exciting stuff that we did at GoPro was giving out coupon codes. And with some of the brands we're working with today, Matt mentioned giving away some free products. People love free stuff. But even social credit can really go a long way. What other kinds of rewards, and how would you, if you were talking to, let's say, a social media marketing manager at CKE or one of the other, we've actually got World of Dance on here. This is great. We've got some cool people logging in. Matt, what would your advice be on how would you reward people most effectively?
Well, I mean, being that defender of what consumers want, I would literally ask them. Have a quick chat, have a back and forth DM on Instagram when they message you, right? A, I would definitely do that. And then B, if it's larger scale, if you're a larger scale brand, just test and learn a little bit. One of the things that we work with brands on is trying to find those little trusted forums, those little feedback loops. That can be through a private Facebook group. It can be through a phone call. In fact, with one of our influencer programs, we actually even had like a monthly or an every other month call with them and got them on. And they were micro influencers from all over the country. And we had like a business meeting with them and they were psyched. So, there's lots of ways to do it, big and small, but again, starting with just asking what would motivate them. And if they're a big fan of your brand, swag, product,
yep.
And featuring them on your Instagram stories, like give them a shout out for their efforts.
Yeah, totally agree.
Well, for our third and final poll, we want to ask the audience, how have you used UGC in brand campaigns? Posting on social, putting these pictures on your e-commerce pages, putting it in TV advertising, or all the above?
Yeah, no, I encourage all of our brands to use it as many places as possible, just because it resonates so much better. We're seeing a much higher uptick in interactions through user-generated content across the board than through traditional marketing, right? At GoPro, we actually saw by far the most organic views on YouTube were on our user-generated content. It wasn't the exciting stuff where people are jumping off cliffs or, you know, parachuting out of space. It was the kid on a skateboard. Actually, the one video that had the most organic views was Fireman Saves a Kitten. You know, it's authentic, it's real, it's life, it's people can associate with it. So super cool. But Matt, where are you using e-commerce, or where are you using user-generated content most these days for your brands?
I mean, I would say mostly in social, right? It's especially with the proliferation of stories on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok now coming up. I would say that, you know, number one, lo-fi is okay, right? Like, fill your stories, even if you know people usually only watch it to the first 4 frames. Give those shout outs, give those creds, give those slaps on the back. And something that I haven't done that I've been kind of admiring is that, again, it doesn't have to be a photo or a video or a sculpture. It can just be a live feed. Sports teams and sports leagues have been doing a really good job of that. And, you know, I'd have to believe that, I know there's a bunch of higher learning organizations on this call right now. For universities, like, how do you express school spirit when you can't have everybody together at the same time, right? So I think that'd be an excellent way to get people to, you know, give the shout outs and get that virtual bumper sticker on their car. Students are proud to go where they're going, right? I think that would be a huge win.
Yep, 100%. I wanted to show off, by the way, great results coming in from the poll. Most people were saying all the above, but actually we got a lot of just social posts. It doesn't look like people are just using it for e-commerce or advertising, and that's, you know, that resonates with us as well. Like, e-commerce and advertising, good. If you can use it everywhere, better, but definitely social posts. I wanted to show, we're actually a little bit behind schedule, but I wanted to show off 2 of your videos, Matt. These are programs that Matt helped put together back in the day, and they were so inspirational. These were sort of the gold standards as far as like how you up-level user-generated content campaigns. So first one's Mercedes. Want to say anything before we dive in?
So we spent a lot of time on that script. Let's go.
The all-new Mercedes-Benz CLA was designed to attract a new consumer to the brand. A Gen Y consumer that simply couldn't picture Mercedes as part of their lifestyle. So how did we capture the hearts of a generation who thought the brand was for their father or grandfather? We rethought our traditional approach. And 2 months before the US launch, we invited Gen Y to take the wheel.
For the next 5 days, I'm taking the wheel for Mercedes CLA in New York City. If I get more Instagram likes than the other 4 photographers, I get to keep the CLA.
We didn't bring in the typical professionals. Instead, we found Instagram's best photographers. We didn't give them a brief. We gave them a challenge.
For the longest time now, I wanted to shoot a campaign entirely on my iPhone. If I get more likes than the other 4 guys, I get to keep the car.
We didn't doctor the pixel-perfect car shots. We didn't even approve the pictures first. We watched 5 authentic road trips unfold in real time, one after the other, with millions of followers along for the ride.
Ready!
People got behind their favorite photographer, knowing that each like brought them closer to the car.
It was definitely different than the typical week on Instagram. In a place like Yosemite National Park, there's very little cell phone service, and I hadn't planned on that. So I knew I had to post these photos, and I was literally like holding my phone out the sunroof of the car to try to get more bars.
The journeys traveled outside of Instagram, where millions more checked out the campaign and experienced the content. As we engaged millions of new consumers who had never considered the brand before, we also collected stunning marketing assets for the launch campaign. But the big question is, can mobile photography move cars? The month of Take the Wheel, visits to MBUSA.com hit an all-time high, with the lowest average age in the brand's history. When the CLA launched 2 months later, it broke sales records. At the end of the day, we found a new way to communicate one of our brand truths. It's not how far or fast you go, it's who follows you.
Was that an iPhone 6 in there? How long ago was that?
I saw the thumb scanner on there.
It's pretty close. Yeah. Well, so look, I'll be brief so we can move on to the next video. But that was not easy. The biggest thing was getting our brave clients to convince their bosses to let that happen. Right? Give ultimate control to the crowd. And one of the questions in the QA, so good segue there, is, what did we do with that content other than feature it on Instagram? That was in our digital display ads. That was in digital outdoor. That ended up going up in the dealerships. The dealers actually loved it because normally they have these CGI super Batmobile version of the cars rotating in cyberspace. We had real content that showed that, yes, young people can actually be into the brand. So I'll leave it at that for now, and we can hit that.
And actually, that's one good call out. We do have a question and answer section on here. If you guys have any questions throughout the thing, please enter them there, and we'll answer them. Hopefully, get to all the questions afterwards. If not, But here's the next one. So this one needs a little preface. Okay,
so the brief this is old. So sorry for the weird blurry video. But basically, so Burger King came to us and said, we just launched the King campaign. Some of the retail locations, some of the franchisees don't like it. It's too creepy. It's too weird. Unfortunately, we just bought 10,000 Burger King masks. You need to get rid of them for us immediately. So they came to me. They said, hey, Matt, marketing services guy over at Heavy, you need to make this happen. I'm like, what's my budget? They're like, $8,000. I'm like, what the F? So back in the day, we went to Craigslist. We were looking for people who are, we jokingly call them SPUG, semi-professional user-generated people who actually had cameras and lighting. And again, now we all have these. These make everything easier. But we found some wild and crazy guys who did this for us, and I can tell you about the results afterwards.
You want to be down with the King?
Can I help you?
Yes, can I have a Whopper, please?
Huh?
A Whopper?
This is McDonald's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have chicken tenders?
Yes. Chicken fillet.
No, tenders.
No. That's chicken fillet.
Okay, do you have chicken Whoppers?
Huh?
Do you have chicken Whoppers?
No. You see the menu? That is the number one, that's the big man. Number two, that's the cheeseburger. Number three is Terapanda. Number four is the Terapanda.
Oh, okay. Well, can I have a strawberry shake then?
I'm sorry?
Can I have a strawberry shake?
What size?
Medium.
Anything else?
And a Whopper.
We don't have any Whoppers. We have double cheese, nice chicken, Terapanda, double Terapanda, Big Mac.
How you doing? Did you get any Whoppers yet?
Let me see your face. Let me see your face.
I can't help it. I can't look. I'm laughing too hard.
This is McDonald's. Oh my goodness. You kidding me? Huh?
No, we're just playing.
You don't look like the King that much.
I don't look like the King. I got the roll.
Well, you might not want to eat it. Don't come and do that.
Thank you.
Give us a call when you get them Whoppers.
So, shout out to my man Brian Nobley who shot that. But look, first of all, I think McDonald's should hire that woman and give her the Graciousness of the Century Award. But that video, there are many iterations still floating around the internet. It got like 22 million views, got us on the front cover of the New York Times business section. It was a hit. We sold out of the masks in less than a week. And there are a series of videos like that, just kind of prank style, like Jackass meets modern UGC. And look, it was just figuring out, like, what is the audience like? How do we do it quickly in an organized way? And how do we find the people with the right skills to do it? So it's really kind of like a micro piece that we're projecting now onto what's so much easier. So a couple other examples of how we can put the UGC to use besides those. So Mercedes-Benz case study, that was great, won some awards. But look, the beauty of that really is that we let people take the wheel every day with Mercedes. If you follow Mercedes-Benz USA on Instagram, and I think you should, it's a great example, they find people who are lifestyle photographers, fashion photographers, skiers, random hand raisers. They give them vehicles and send them out on road trips, and they give them the car as an access or as a token, and they also give them even hotel rooms so they can take these great long trips and report back with dozens and dozens of photos that look real and are reusable. We did something with Dove where we actually seeded a program called Real Moms for Baby Dove, and we seeded it with 200 micro influencers. No small ask or task. Wish we would have had ENTRIBE involved at that point in time, but that created a copycat effect. So we suddenly started seeing this, incremental spread of the program where we had hundreds and thousands of impressions due to the consumers kind of just taking that really simple ask, doing it, and then giving away a couple prizes. And one of my favorites is a former client of mine, still with the agency, Cooper Tires. We actually started a program called the Cooper Crew, where we took people who were already posting images of their Jeeps and trucks, and they were taking them with God knows what or nothing, and we gave them an organizing principle, which was that hashtag, in a program where we took the best of the best and we gave them swag kits. We let them represent us at trade fairs. We set them off on little journeys. And then the other ones that didn't kind of rise to the top, we just featured them in the Instagram stories, and people got very excited that their Jeep or a picture of them and their dog was featured. This particular shot, I love this one because we actually realized that we didn't have any snow tire shots in April when the snow was gone. We found one of our program creators who happened to live probably a day's drive from Tahoe, where there was a little bit of snow left. We gave him, X amount of dollars. We paid for his hotel room. He did the shoot. He gave us hundreds of photos that we could use. And if we would have activated our own production team or hired a production team, that would have been $40K. So just a great cautionary tale on being able to A, plan ahead, but B, use these folks for things other than what they're just submitting for you. Because when you ask, they'll probably come through if you have a reasonable offer for them.
Yeah, and I love these three examples, and this actually speaks really well to actually one of the questions. So I'm going to jump not past our deck or anything, but Kelsey from Keon is actually asking, how do you recommend finding and motivating authentic, natural, user-generated content in a sea of paid influencers, especially on IG, which can be very fake and scripted? And, I think this slide actually speaks to that really well, because what Matt did here was a couple things that we encourage all of our clients to do, which is one, you want to manage user-generated content at scale like you did at Dove. And to do that, you need a system in place and you need technology, but you want to reach out to people that are doing authentic things and encourage them to do more of it around your brand. But then once you find those great creators, you want to be able to manage those creators over time, track them, and reactivate them. And by reactivating them and telling them exactly what you're looking for, it still comes across as authentic because this is something that person's already doing in their normal life. But you can elevate the quality of that user-generated content, and they're on brand because you found them already working with your brand, you activated them, and you've started figuring out that user-generated content cycle. We really call it a flywheel because it's not the first time that you send out an activation. It builds over time. The first time you can get some great content, the 10th time you're going to get the most amazing content, and then it keeps going. So we're actually over time, but there's a couple quick slides I want to touch on real fast, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So converting customers into creator checklists. First you have to find them, then you have to activate them, then you have to reward them. And I think there's we already touched on most of the key points that I wanted to bring up on this slide, but it's really important to keep that communication cycle going. And if you're doing it with 5 or 10 users, you can do that manually. If you get over 20 or 30 or 40, you really need a system in place to be able to manage this process. And you want to make sure that they hear from you on a regular basis. If they don't hear from you, they think they're sending their content out into the digital wild like they do on social media, and they don't hear back from the brand. That's a problem. And you're going to lose them as influencers, if you want to call them that, or if you want to brand loyalists. I like to say that they are part of your tribe. They become part of the brand when they're starting to generate content for you. And Matt, what do you think is the most important part of this? What is the creator consumer checklist for you?
For me, it's getting those rights. I mean, there's a lot of handshake deals. Most consumers will say yes if you reach out and reach out again. But back to that question of like, where else can you use that content and how does that work? If you don't have the right rights in the right contract in place, which can be a simple yes checkbox on any kind of interface, then you can't put it anywhere where digital can go. You can't put it in a Times Square billboard. You can't put it in your direct mail. You can't put it in your app, right? So I would say that is probably the most important part, especially now in this more litigious place that we're finding ourselves.
Yep, 100% agree. And actually, so on our next slide, that's exactly what one of the biggest pitfalls that we see with our clients is. And whenever we get a new customer, this is one of the first things we really lean into is, all right, let's make sure your rights clearances are secure. Before you start doing anything with it, let's go through what real rights clearances are. And so the first thing we talk about is what are the key components of a contract? Because you have to have a contract with your user. They're usually not used to doing contracts around their photos and videos that they're taking of their friends and family. But there's offer, there's acceptance, and there's a consideration of the contract. You have to have those three components. So offer and acceptance, I think everyone's familiar with what that means. I make you an offer, you accept. But there has to be consideration. You have to offer something of value back to that customer. And it can be as simple as social media credit. It can be a coupon code. It can be cash. Lots of different ways of rewarding, but you need to reward some way. Otherwise, it's not a real contract. And a lot of platforms out there and brands that I see are clearing rights are going through social media and saying, like, DMing the person and saying, like, if you say agreed, I get to use it. Or if they hashtag yes, I get to use the content. That's not a real contract. Maybe that user doesn't care, but eventually if you start doing this at scale, and especially the bigger brands, you're going to get sued at some point. Rights management, you have to be able to track the terms and conditions, the T's and C's, all the way through the process and for years afterwards, because somebody can come after you years after you made a social media post or used it in one of your pieces of advertising. And then ownership verification. This is one of the biggest hurdles that we've had, but now with technology, we can actually verify who shot that content, who's in that content, and make sure that they even have the rights to give you the rights to that content. So like if I took a picture of Matt and shared it on social media and somebody wanted to license it from Matt, they wouldn't be able to do it. There's a lot of like tricks there, but we've started figuring that part out. Matt, where are the biggest like trip ups that you see in rights clearances?
Look, I would, and then maybe I believe the next slide might actually prove my point. So this is probably the most unsexy slide you'll see all day, but this is the most important. And Adam showed me this when I saw his tool, and I was like, holy moly. So while there are, hints of, visual search and AI and things like that that can kind of sort that stuff out, really every photo that anyone will send in to you will have metadata attached to it, just like any YouTube video or any piece of content these days. And in that metadata, and again, that's what a tool like ENTRIBE can do for you, scan it real quick to determine, like, was it actually shot on the camera brand that we're marketing here? Where was it shot? Was it altered at all, right? Because sometimes you want natural shots, or that might be part of the contest or the promotion. So, I would say, again, making yourself legal proof moving forward, not doing just handshake DM, like, cool, I can use your photo, that's awesome. And 2 years later, it shows up somewhere else and suddenly you're in a mess. But some of this, back end number crunching and data crunching is probably like the important part now.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that we're starting to do a little bit more of is actually scan the web to see if that photo or video has been used any other places on the web. Because maybe it was scraped off the web and just reposted to somebody's feed. This is one of the reasons that we don't usually work with Pinterest, because most of that content scraped off of other people's feeds. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, those are usually original content, but not all the time. And so there's ways of using technology to figure this out.
Yep. As an avid meme stealer, I can say that I would not be, yes, I will not be one of your best creators.
Cool. Well, thank you, Matt. That was awesome webinar. I think Tim's going to wrap us up.
Yeah, so as some of you know, the ENTRIBE platform was designed around a lot of the needs and workflow that Adam put together at GoPro to scale pretty much the largest UGC operation that's ever been assembled. So some of the largest brands in the world and some really tiny brands have been leveraging the platform as their CRM for community content, where they can, identify, activate, and reward these folks all in one place. So if you're looking for a platform to streamline a lot of these tedious and monotonous tasks and manage these unique relationships while doing it safely and legally, feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to learn more. My email is tim@entribe.com. So I think we can jump into the Q&A. We do have a few questions that are coming through. So let's see.
While the questions are coming in, I just wanted to thank Matt again. This was awesome, super fun. Tim, thank you so much for hosting.
That was a lot of fun.
And if anyone needs to drop out because of time, I know we're a little bit over time, feel free to hit us up at any time for questions. We can always hop on the phone and walk through any of your questions. And if we don't get to your questions, I apologize because there are actually a bunch coming in.
Yeah, so the first one we have here, for generating better content, what's more important? Educating the community on best practices or rewarding with cash and discount codes?
Matt, you want to take this one?
Wow. So it kind of depends, right? So I would say, look, if you are a CPG brand or you're a DTC brand, and that's kind of the name of your game is getting out products to people so they can actually demo them, then I would say get more products, get more use cases. I mean, it might sound dumb. Buy them a treadmill to show your shoes. Buy them a different kind of washer to show off your, energy efficient new soaps and things like that. So kind of depends. And then I also would say, look, when you start getting into that need of like, oops, we didn't do the snow tire shoot, then maybe you reach into the production budget.
Yeah. And, I encourage brands to try to find people that are already doing organic things already out there in the wild, and then bring them into your fold and help and guide them a little bit more towards what you're looking for. But for that, you really need a process in place because it takes a lot of time and effort to go through that process. So, yeah.
Cool. The next question we have here is, how have you seen universities leverage UGC, and how would you recommend rewarding those creators?
It's a good question. Yeah, and I know we have bunch of universities actually on here. So I'm super excited that in these difficult times, we're able to help universities really engage not only with their students, because students want to feel a part of the community. Like, students already love the university that they're going to, or at least hopefully most of them do. And they want to participate, but like, there's a lot less FaceTime these days. There's a lot less ways that they can feel a part of the university, whether it's going to sports games, whether it's being on campus or in classrooms. But having that feedback loop and being able to share that content is huge. But it's not just students. I think faculty are starting to embrace this as well, and they're sharing best practices for how they're teaching remote learning, or and there's just ways that they can share photos and videos of how they can still stay as part of the community. And then alumni as well. It's a way that alumni can really reach back out to the university, share their experiences, and the university can use that for marketing materials, right? For recruitment purposes.
Cool. All right, we'll jump to the third one. For small social media teams that are spread thin, managing this process seems overwhelming. What advice do you have for teams who just don't have the time?
Well, that one's kind of easy. Use a third-party tool who also has an optional managed service component if you get stuck. So yeah, look, I'll just not trying to sell you anything here, but it's just get your feet wet a little bit. Meet a couple influencers or creators, kind of see what they're into. Let them help shape the program a little bit. And when you're ready to kind of scale it up a little bit, or you start to see that need come, or look, again, we're in a recession right now. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, but we're in one. And anything that's not working media is going to be questioned. And sometimes social and PR can fall into that area. And I've lived through 3 of these cycles, and this is the worst one. But I think now is the time to gather first-party data, zero-party data from people, to gather their content, gather them both at the same time, have a contest. So that's how I would recommend do it. Just, get your toes wet, talk to the influencers and the creators, see kind of what they'd be into. And that there are other birds of those feathers out there that'll come and.
Yeah. And so it's not just small social media teams. It's like even the large guys, they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the time. So some of our brands are using third-party agencies that use our platform. Some of the brands we work with ask us to do it for them through managed services. But I think what Matt's point is important is just get your feet wet, get started. You can do it at a small level. You can do it for less than an hour a day, sometimes even less than a couple hours a week. But the sooner you get started, the easier it is going to be to scale later.
And I think that flows into this next question actually pretty well. How can I make a business case to use UGC with my boss? So I don't know if there's KPIs you guys want to talk about, but that kind of flows, seems like it flows well.
I got one for you. So here's what you do. You take a little spreadsheet, and you look at something that was professionally produced by maybe not your division of your company. You look at how much you spend on promoting it, and you look at your return on investment. You do the same. You B test. That's the A. The B test is take some user-generated content or something a little more home-cooked. Do the exact same thing. And again, depending who your audience is, but most audiences will look at the authentic, the real, the non-perfect. The person who might say 7 good things and one thing about your product sounds a lot more believable. So that's the way I would do it. Another cool way to do it would also just be to attach engagement metrics to that, assign dollar figures to those engagement metrics, and kind of parallel those to what a normal click on Google would be, or a normal affiliate link CPC would be. And I'll pretty much guarantee you'll have at least an even fight.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100% agree. There's a lot of stats that we like to share with our clients, and if anyone is interested in some of those, we can definitely kick those over to you through an email after this. But the authentic user-generated content resonates so much better than pre-produced content, and there's just tons and tons of stats out there to back that up. We always used to see that at GoPro, and our clients today see it all the time. So if you want to make the business case from the stats that are existing, it's super easy to search for them, or just ask us and we'll send them to you. But I agree, A/B test for your own brand is probably the best way.
Well, and if that's scary for traditional marketers, make a template in which you can lay the UGC into, right? So if your brand is polished, it needs to be very crisp, and the logo has to be there. And we all know that, on Facebook, if your logo isn't in the first nanosecond, you're not going to get that kind of, upward brand lift. So, find ways to integrate it. You don't need to just put up a shaky video of a guy in a Burger King or McDonald's drive-in. you can kind of polish that a little bit with a frame.
Cool. Let's see, we got another one here. Have you seen loyalty and repeat purchases increase for brands that issued discount codes to a creator community?
I actually have seen it, yes. I can't say which client, but it is a major automotive brand who invited some people to a bit of a track day to see some demos. And then afterwards they followed up with the content series for all of those who weren't in California, who couldn't go to the event. And yes, we saw a massive return on investment. Of course, that was a specialty product. It was a specialty marketplace, but definitely. And look, I oftentimes on Instagram see influencers big and small pass out offer codes, and I almost feel like that's where I get them more often than Googling them nowadays, because I get to see the thing in action real quick. Oh, that mask will actually fit under my glasses. Cool, I'll try it out, right? So that's my anecdote on that. Adam, do you have any examples?
Yeah, well, I think in one of the slides earlier, one of the GoPro slides, obviously we did that at scale, and we drove an incredible amount of e-commerce revenue. But more than anything, those people that heard from us that we use their content in any kind of marketing materials, they got that credibility. They basically got that credit of saying like, hey, the brand embraced me, I'm going to embrace them back. And they became some of our biggest supporters, influencers. They became our loyalists. And there was one anecdote where one of those guys that we rewarded actually bought himself a van, was touring around the United States, and slapped GoPro logos all over it because he was just such a supporter of us. But we see that in big and small brands, even like the Bare Organics and some of the others that we work with on a daily basis. People love it when the brand reaches out and participates with you more than anything. It's like I was commenting about the Twitter, just the comment's good, but if you can actually share around content, it's that much better. I think we have time for just one more question. Tim, do you want to pick one?
Well, yeah, let's see.
And then we'll wrap up.
Where is the best place to ask for UGC? From
Everywhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I would try everywhere, to be honest with you, right? To me, email strikes me. We didn't rehearse this at all, but email probably seems normal. I would have to believe your biggest brand loyalists and people who are kind of looking to see what your next product is, or news or discounts, are probably in your email database. But I also have to believe that in this day and age where everybody's following a million brands, and who knows what's in my, bulk folders and spam folders, social, right? I would also maybe ride some hashtags, see what's going on out there around your category, because you may also be able to do a little conquesting that way, especially if you're a bit of a challenger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also say, like, each brands are different, right? So universities are different than QSR, than CPG companies. And I'd say lean into whatever you have access to. So everyone's got a phone in their pocket every single day, every single minute. Wherever they are is the best place to pin them. So if they're in your restaurant, have messaging in your restaurant. If they're at the point of sale, have messaging there. If they just bought your shoes on Zappos, have messaging in the box, because you want them pulling out their phone and taking a picture right then of wherever that you're activating them. If you're walking into an event, which we're not doing these days, but maybe hopefully soon we'll be walking into concerts and things like that, you can have them pull out the phone and take pictures and share that content right then. And that's the easiest for them. It's the lowest friction of being able to get that content out there. But I know we're running out of time. I wanted to thank everyone so much, especially Matt, Tim. Thank you guys for helping me host this webinar. And, it was really, really cool to see how many people joined. We had a ton of great people from all over the country join. And I just wanted to remind you that the webinar recording will be coming in an email in the not too distant future, in the next few days. So keep an eye out for that, and please share it with whoever you like.
Cool. All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.